Well, the original cryptocurrency, of course, was Bitcoin, but then you have new coins coming all the time. And how does that happen? What's the process behind that? And what's involved? And what are the advantages potentially for us as traders? But certainly there's some risk around that too as well. So we're going to talk about that in this section around ICOs, or initial coin offerings. So basically an ICO is how a new cryptocurrency is born, right? It's how do you create a new cryptocurrency? That can later be traded on an exchange. And basically what you need, as far as how it's done is it's going to seem strange here, but you basically, a group of people get together, they form a project, and then they write a technical white paper about why they want this new cryptocurrency, what it's going to do, why their blockchain's great, or they're maybe, on another type blockchain like Ethereum or something, and why you should give them money, basically to raise money for their project, right? So that's the thing. Their whole deal with the technical white paper is they're raising funds for the project to try to get this cryptocurrency launched. And you can send it to them in fiat money, but usually with these, they want actual cryptocurrency, to be sent to them, Bitcoin or Ether, because they're all trying to, of course, exist in that cryptocurrency environment and want to support the decentralized network. Fiat currency is bad. We want new things, right? We want new cryptocurrencies. So they raise funds. And then they give investors tokens, which is kind of like the coin itself, or tokens, which will eventually, hopefully, be listed on an exchange, right? So the idea is that will become a coin, and then they'll be listed on an exchange eventually. So it's kind of like crowdfunding for cryptocurrency. It's crowdfunding for crypto. And some succeed, like Ethereum, of course, very famously. Some succeed and succeed wildly, and many others succeed. But according to a study from Boston College a few years ago, about 56% of these coins fail within their first 120 days. Either they never really even become a real coin, and that means your money, you may get it back, but you might not get money that you've sent to them back. That's a risk, of course, if you're doing the initial funding or helping those folks who are raising funds for the projects. Or maybe they become a coin, but they never get on many exchanges, and they're never really heavily traded, and they just kind of, disappear. With most people are trading Bitcoin and Ethereum, then some of the other top ones like Cardano and Ripple and all that. If you're the number 2,333 coin, you're not going to get much trading action around it, and not much interest around it. Now, couple of things around with them too, with initial coin offerings, is there's very little regulations around it. In fact, some governments have banned initial coin offerings in their country, or those types of projects. So understand that, and that changes all the time, so just be aware. But there's a reason why they banned them, because it's, it's a little regulated, and it's a real fertile ground for scams. You can probably start thinking through this, like, what? You just write a paper and then you start raising money? Like, is that it? That's kind of what it is. And sometimes there's real true scams. Like the ICO never was real. They never intended to have a project. They never intended anything to do. It was just a scam to raise and basically steal money. And then you have these worthless tokens. So if you send them some Bitcoin, you send them some money, they did that for a while, and then they just kind of disappear and you can't find them. They're disappeared. And then some are like, well, they'll do this kind of the scam for the pump and dump, right? Where you pump up a new coin that's come live, other people out there in the market. And usually they'll say something like, oh, it's the next Ethereum. This is so great. Look at this white paper. And so they'll try to pump the price up from the initial coin offering price, which is very low, get it up there, sell it, get out, and do that whole pump and dump. And then the whole coin has this bad rep, and it never really succeeds there. So it's a fertile ground for scams, and so just to be aware of that if you're looking at these newer coins. Doesn't mean you can't invest in them, doesn't mean there's a great upside in them, doesn't mean you can't make quite a bit of money on them. But I would say if you're going to invest a lot in, let's say, into initial coins, to have that be a certain percentage of your portfolio, but understand you're taking on a lot more risk, hoping for a lot more return, than if you were, let's say, trading, Bitcoin or Ethereum, which are risky in themselves compared to, let's say, stocks, or certainly less risky investments like bonds or cash. So think about that when you're investing in ICOs, especially if you have that next great ICO. It's the next Ethereum. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. So just be aware of that. And to wrap up this section, you might also be thinking like, well, I've heard of stock IPOs, right? Initial public offerings. How does an ICO for cryptocurrency compare to a stock market IPO, or a new company going public? So if we just real briefly look at, as we learn in cryptocurrency, you have the ICO, or initial coin offering. They basically write a paper, and there's no or to very little regulations around that. In comparison to the stock market, where you have initial public offering, or IPO, you have to write a real comprehensive prospectus, and it has to be written in a certain manner, and there's a lot of government regulation around that. It's very, very highly regulated. You have to then get investment bankers involved and a lot of other approvals. There's a lot of expense, a tremendous amount of expense and time to bring a company from a private company to be publicly traded on an exchange like the New York Stock Exchange, for example, or NASDAQ. So there's a lot of work behind that and a lot of costs. So for cryptocurrency, very low cost, very little regulation stock, higher cost for that company, and then a lot more regulation to get it there. So that way, and many IPOs, are not super successful either, by the way. But it is certainly something that's much more regulated than a cryptocurrency would be. So just something to consider when you're looking to buy and trade cryptocurrency, and particularly if you love that initial coin offering or that ICO market. And there's new coins coming on almost every day now, sometimes weekly, but almost every day you can hear somebody's got a coin coming up. So a lot of competition for your eyeballs, so to speak, your notice of their initial coin offering.